Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we're going to tell you a story of Cades Cove, the heart of the Smokies. Before the Smokies were a park, before the roads, before the crowds, before the cameras, there was a hidden valley, quiet, wild, and alive. Families built their homes here. They worked the soil, raised their children, and built a life surrounded by the mountains. This place was their world, and even though time moved on, their stories never left. This is Cades Cove, the heart of the Smokies. Nestled deep within the Smoky Mountains lies a place unlike any other, a valley where time seems to stand still. Here mist rises over the meadows, deers graze in silence, and the creak of wagon wheels can almost be heard in the wind. This is Cades Cove, a quiet corner of East Tennessee that has witnessed centuries of change and generations of stories. Today, it's one of the most visited spots in the Smoky Mountains National Park, drawing millions each year. But long before the crowds and the cameras, Cades Cove was a thriving community, a place where life was simple, hard, and beautiful. Long before white settlers arrived, this valley belonged to the Cherokee Nation. They called this region Siahi, meaning the otter place. The fertile soil, clear streams, and abundant game made it a favored hunting ground. The Cherokee traveled here in the warm months, following trails that would later become wagon roads, gathering food and teaching their children the old stories of the mountains. To them, these lands were sacred, a place of balance between the human world and the spirit world. Every ridge and river had meaning. Even the name Cades Cove likely came from a Cherokee chief, possibly Chief Cade. By the late 1700s, the world of the Cherokee began to change. Treaties signed under pressure forced them westward. Settlers from Virginia and North Carolina began crossing the mountains in search of land, and by the early 1800s, the first homesteads began to rise in the valley that would become Cades Cove. The first permanent European settlers arrived in 1818. Among them were families like John Oliver and his wife, Lorena. They built a small cabin near the Abrams Creek, the same cabin that still stands today. Life was not easy. The nearest town, Maryville, was nearly 30 miles away over rugged mountain passes. Everything the settlers needed, food, tools, medicine, they either made, grew, or bartered. But they also found something priceless: fertile soil and the water that ran pure and cold. The valley was a gift. Rich bottomland surrounded by steep ridges that protected it from storms. The Olivers were soon joined by other families: the Tiptons, the Shields, the Cable family, the Gregors, the Lawsons, and more. They cleared the forest, planted crops, and built log homes from the very trees they felled. Each cabin had a hearth, a few homemade chairs, a Bible resting on a shelf, sometimes the only book in the house. The people were devout, self-reliant, and community-minded. They depended on one another for everything: childbirth, funerals, barn raising, and harvests. By 1827, Cades Cove had its first church, the Primitive Baptist Church, where settlers gathered every Sunday, rain or shine. Two other churches followed, the Methodist and the Missionary Baptist, each one standing as a testament to their faith. By the 1830s, Cades Cove had become a thriving mountain village. At its peak, around 700 people lived here, spread across more than 100 homes. They built a school, a grist mill, blacksmith shops, and general stores. Farmers raised corn, wheat, and livestock. Women tended gardens, made soup, and spun wool into clothing. Children walked miles each day to attend class at one-room schoolhouses. Saturdays were for trading and visiting neighbors. Sundays were for rest and worship. And on special occasions, the entire valley gathered for music, storytelling, and food cooked over an open fire. The people of Cades Cove were bound together by hard work and faith. They weathered droughts, floods, and harsh winters, always relying on community to pull through. Even in the early years, the valley's isolation shaped his character. While the rest of the country raced towards progress, Cades Cove moved at a pace of a plow horse, slow, steady, and content. When the Civil War broke out in 1861, Cades Cove found itself divided. Most of the families were in the Union Loyalists, but others supported the Confederacy. The wars brought fear, raids, and heartbreak to the valley. Confederate bushwhackers and Union home guards both roamed the mountains, stealing food and livestock. Families hid in caves or fled the valley altogether. The Olivers, longtime Union supporters, suffered heavily. Their livestock stolen, their farm ransacked. It was a time of deep scars, not just on the land but on the friendships and families. When the war was finally ended, the people of Cades Cove returned to their farms to rebuild, but the world around them had changed. The 1870s brought new challenges: soil exhaustion, dwindling timber, and economic isolation. Still, the people endured. They rebuilt homes, reopened churches, and found peace again in the rhythm of the land. By the early 1900s, Cades Cove remained largely untouched by modern life. There was no electricity, no paved roads, and no telephones. Visitors described it as a world out of time, a place where ox-drawn plows still tilled the earth and neighbors still gathered by lamplight. But progress was coming, and with it, change. In the 1920s, talks of creating a national park in the Smoky Mountains began spreading through East Tennessee. To the outside world, it was a noble idea, preserving wilderness for generations to come. To the people of Cades Cove, it was something else entirely. They loved their valleys. Their families had lived there for over a century. When the government announced it would purchase all private land to form the park, many refused to leave. Court cases followed, tempers flared, but slowly, one by one, families sold or lost their land through eminent domain. By 1937, most residents had moved away to nearby Townsend or Maryville. A few were granted lifetime leases, allowing them to stay until they passed on. When the park officially opened in 1940, the last of Cades Cove farmers were still tending their fields, holding on to a way of life that was disappearing forever. The forest grew back around the old farms, the pastures became open fields once more. The old cabins, barns, and mills were left standing as monuments to the people who had once called this valley home. Today, Cades Cove is one of the crown jewels of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Visitors drive the 11-mile loop road, walk through the old homesteads, and see the same ridgelines that watched over the settlers 200 years ago. Deer and bears wander freely through the fields where corn once grew. The John Oliver Cabin, the Cable Mill, the Baptist and Methodist churches all stand as silent witnesses to the people who built a community out of the wilderness. Every log tells a story. Every path once carried the footsteps of someone who believed this valley was home. The Park Service works tirelessly to preserve those memories, restoring buildings, cutting hay to keep the meadows open, and keeping alive the spirit of the people who once called this place theirs. For the descendants of those early families, a visit to Cades Cove is more than sightseeing. It's a homecoming. And for everyone else, it's a chance to step into history, to feel the weight of time in the still air, and to understand that some beauty is worth protecting forever. Cades Cove is more than a valley. It's a story, one written in sweat, soil, and song. It's a reminder that progress and preservation can walk hand in hand when we choose to remember what came before. Here, the past isn't buried, it's alive in the wind that moves through the grass, into the creak of the barns, and the bell that still rings from the church down the road. When you stand at the edge of a meadow at dusk and watch the light fade behind the mountains, you can almost hear them. The voices of those who lived, worked, and prayed here. Their world was smaller, but their hearts were vast as the Smokies themselves. Cades Cove remains the breathing heart of the Smokies, a living museum of Appalachian history, a sanctuary for wildlife, and a place of peace for everyone willing to slow down long enough to listen. So the next time you find yourself in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, take the road into Cades Cove. Walk through the cabins, listen to the wind, feel the echo of the paths beneath your feet, because here in this quiet mountain valley, the story of the Smokies still lives, and it's waiting for you to ride, to remember, and to keep it alive. The story of Cades Cove isn't finished. It is still being written with every sunrise, every visitor, and every hoofbeat on the trail. Help us keep the spirit alive. Click subscribe, give this video a like, and share it with someone who loves the Smokies as much as we do. And when you're ready, come see it for yourself. Walk the old roads, touch the hand-hemmed logs, and feel the heartbeat of the mountains, because history only lives as long as we remember it. If you got this far into the video, we really appreciate it. We really hope you'll stick around to watch some of our other videos, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss a future video. From all of us at Saddle Up Smokies, where every ride has a story.